This summer, during the biggest sporting event of the year, Peacock turns to two broadcasting legends for the Olympics coverage you can't find anywhere else.
I think they mean us.
With an incredible duo sure to take home the comedy gold. Olympic Highlights with Kevin Hart and Kenan Thompson. New episodes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Only on Peacock.
This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
Everybody, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. All right, should we talk about sex or beards? What do we think? All right, yeah, you're right. I guess, what kind of question is that? All right, I came across an interesting article yesterday, and it was it's something that I've heard from a lot of people that I know, men and women, who are married. It was in USA Today. It's sexless marriages are a serious problem. We need to talk about it. Now, I decided when I was discussing this or not, how much of my own life to share in this respect. And I really came to the conclusion that it would be totally unfair to my wife, Rachel, and, really just falling in the TMI category to share anything about my sex life. So this does not apply to me. I will just say that. But I'm not going to get into anything about my own personal sexual habits, not only because it's unseemly, but, it's kind of embarrassing for us. So I'm not going to get into it. But in this really interesting USA Today piece by Charles Trepanney, he writes, and I agree with this, sex is an important part of a relationship. It bonds couples, and it's an intimate way of expressing love and desire. However, a serious problem for those in long-term relationships can be a lack of sex or sexual desire entirely. This even goes for relationships that began with a powerful spark. According to research, many couples struggle with lack of sex in their marriages. Independent research, market research company Gitnux found that about 15% of marriages in the United States are sexless, and about a third of divorces are caused by sexless marriages. It's interesting. I thought back when I saw this article of a conversation that I had with a female radio executive at the Talkers Conference, not this past year, but the previous year. And she was a little drunk, so she was a little free with whatever she was talking about. And she seemed kind of pretty upset. And I said, what's the matter? And basically, this is exactly what she described, that she was in a position with her husband where she felt like they weren't having sex at all. Now, why she would share this with somebody that she sees once a year, I don't understand, but that's what a little bit of alcohol will do. So they point out in this USA Today article that a relationship does not have to stay sexless. Mental health experts say it's certainly possible to revitalize sex in any relationship, no matter how long it's been missing. But it takes effort and intentionality. Ian Kerner is a therapist and sex and relationship specialist. You know, we should have invited Dr. Judy Kuriansky on to comment on this. Now I'm bummed that I didn't think to do that until I just started sharing this with you, but I thought it might be interesting to bring this article to your attention and get your take on it, because Ian Kerner says that sexless relationships, sex ruts, mismatched libidos. He says, I think that's the number one problem that couples therapists deal with, especially when dealing specifically with sexuality. I think in long-term relationships, it's very natural for this to happen. One thing that I've noticed in these relationships is that sometimes it's not even that couples want sex. What they're missing is being desired. And in reading this USA Today article, the reasons why some marriages become sexless are varied. They also have stirred a lot of debate online. But for instance, there was a video in which a woman online explains why she thinks some women choose to stop having sex with their husbands. And her explanation involved attachment theory, which experts say has some validity, but it's only part of the equation. Stephanie Sarkis, a psychotherapist and author, told USA Today that attachment needs can certainly affect a couple's sexual intimacy, but that the reasons for decreased sexual desire are often more nuanced and cannot be mainly attributed to attachment. There could be a physical health issue. There could be a communication issue. There could be a hormonal issue, which leads to lack of desire. It could be there's built up resentment. It could be that there's a lack of connection. To say that it's solely due to attachment issues is painting too broad of a picture. So I thought this was interesting. I thought the whole article was interesting. It gets into how pervasive this problem is. It gets into some strategies in terms of how to bring sex back into your relationship. It gets into, different quotes from experts as to the cause. So I figured I would get your take on this and see what your experience is like. If you want to share your experience, or you don't have to, it could be anecdotal or something that you've heard from friends or family, or if you're a professional, I don't necessarily mean a sex worker, but a relationship professional of some sort, I'd love to hear from you. 646-720-0635, 646-720-0635, because honestly, I have been amazed at the number of friends of mine, close friends, male and female, that are in these sexless marriages for a wide variety of reasons. And I won't go into all their personal stuff, but it really does vary. And I really do think it takes a significant toll on a relationship. It's not just simply about not enjoying sex. It's, I think you're missing a depth of connection with your partner that I think has a ripple effect across the board for the negative. Let me know what you think. 646-720-0635. If you have thoughts as to why certain marriages become sexless, how to bring sex back into a relationship, or maybe you think this is overstated. Maybe you don't buy the statistics which show that 15% of marriages in this country are sexless and about a third of divorces are caused by sexless marriages. I think it's interesting. Obviously, when you have children, I think it's a little bit of a game changer in terms of the sex life that you're likely to have for a variety of reasons, some logistical, some physical. But I think even beyond that, I think there's a lot of other aspects to this that folks don't love talking about, which I understand. And that's honestly one of the things that made Dr. Ruth so refreshing, is that she would talk about sex on the radio in a mature way, not in a salacious way, but in a way that really helped people at a time where, at least in this country, it wasn't something that you really talked about. on the radio. So I'd love to hear from you. 646-720-0635. Coming up, we have Noam Laden. And then we're going to go live to Milwaukee and talk with Brian Kilmeade. At least I think we are, because you remember I spoke with Brian Kilmeade last week in this hour, and he said he was going to join us. Said, but I might have to be on the phone. That's what he said. Now, it's an hour earlier there for him than it usually is. So who knows? Maybe he's not up for it. But that's what he said. I did send him an SMS text message yesterday. Nothing sexual. But I said, hey, Brian, I know you got a lot going on. If you need, to bow out of our weekly hit, it's fine. Just let me know. No response. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll chat with Brian. All right, let me begin with Jennifer from the great state of Illinois. Hi, Jennifer.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was gonna go ahead and have a little bit to say about what your topic is right now, and also the ADHD.
Sure. Tell me.
So I'm 53. I'm a 53-year-old woman, and I just got on basically Adderall or amphetamine a year ago, and it works for me. I feel like I've had ADD my whole life, not ADHD, but more like ADD, where I just couldn't really focus when I was in school, and I wish that maybe at the age of 10. I wish that I had been on maybe a low dose of the amphetamine, because I really feel like I would have probably got better grades. I would have been able to focus a lot better than I was at that time. And we're talking 1980.
Wow.
So I really wish that I could have been a little tweaked, because I couldn't really stay focused. And then as I got on it about a year ago, it was because same thing. I feel like I was just losing, like I said, my whole life. I feel like I just felt like I could have been a little bit more just better focused and zoom in and, get busy with doing the things that I needed to do. And when the doctor told me, and I'm on a very low dose, I'm on 30 milligrams. And I tell you what, it helps. It helps a lot better for me. It works for me.
Well, that's great. I'm glad it's working out for you. That's great.
Yeah, I'm a CDL driver as well. I don't know the whole fact about being on Ritalin, but you can be on amphetamine, and it just, I work through the night, so that definitely helps me get through and stay focused and get me through my drive.
I'm starting to think I might need this for my daily drive home.
Then as far as your latest topic, so that's kind of funny, but being at 53, going through menopause, and just mid stages, not early stages, not late stages. But my husband also is 68. We're 15 years difference. He has not lost his drive at all.
Oh, good for him.
And I really haven't, but it's it definitely has slowed down, just due to all the stuff that you go through, as a female related and going into menopause. And I would say it definitely has slowed down. But the want is there, the attraction is still there, and I guess when it's all good for both of us, we're on it.
How long are you married, Jennifer?
So 15 years.
15 years. Okay. So you got married. So even back then there was even more, well, it's the same age difference, but even more noticeable. Do you have any advice for couples that might be listening that might be, I don't know, experiencing the 15-year itch where maybe they are a little less desirous of their partner than they used to be? Any advice on, I don't know, what you and your husband have done to make sure that intimacy and sexual intimacy is still a key part of your relationship?
I think, I'm sorry. Okay. I guess, just try to, keep it real, keep it going. Try to, see the things that you saw in your mate back when you started to become attracted to that person, and try to continue to, give each other compliments. Try to, do some, different things together, all the things that you used to like to do. Go on small dates.
Yeah, Jennifer, I think that's really good advice. I think that's very sound, and I hope people take it to heart. And some of these strategies are things that I've, used in my own marriage with great success. Thank you, Jennifer. Donna in Staten Island. Donna, good morning. It's great to talk to you.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
About 10 years ago, I was having a conversation with one of my customers. He was 80 years old at the time.
80? 80?
80. He lost his wife, and he was in a relationship, and he was a new man because the simple reason his wife, she was like the mother of his children. She didn't it was different years ago. She just strictly, everything was straight. So when he met this woman, she was more, experimenting, and he was a new man. He's still going strong to this day. I couldn't believe it.
God bless him. Between him and Jennifer's 68-year-old husband, I think you're giving a lot of hope to a lot of fellas out there. Becky in Maryland. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for your show.
Sure. Thank you for listening.
And kept me up. So that's good.
Wonderful. That's the idea. Great. We don't want you to sleep while driving.
Oh, no. So I wanted to weigh in on this.
Becky, I'm losing you a little. I'm losing you a little bit, Becky.
1 second. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you now. Go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about how the impact of sexual abuse and relationships. I am a survivor, and I have a bunch of friends who are as well. And what we've discussed and realized is that, social pressures and social norms in the beginning of relationships push you to do things that are too hard or that might not be best for your healing process. And that as you get comfortable with your partner, as you get comfortable in your relationship, and as you trust each other more, so many of us, that's when we pull back and we say, hey, let's start this over again. And for many of us, that does include a time where we say, you know what, let's do relationship and let's skip the sex idea. And honestly, what it does is that it allows a future of sex rather than, tumbling towards divorce when the going gets even rougher. And that's just, another idea on this topic.
That is interesting, Becky, and I'm glad you called because it's an aspect of this that I wouldn't have thought about, but I think you're probably speaking for a lot of people, and that makes sense. Becky, thank you for calling. Stay awake, at least while you're driving, and call me again, please. But thank you, Becky. Noam Laden is here. We'll talk with him and Brian Kilmeade straight ahead.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
I want to kiss you in Paris.
27 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. This is Madonna singing Justify My Love. We never have to justify our love for the best news anchor in all the business, Noam Laden.
Stand by for The Other Side of Midnight's news.
From New York City, The Other Side of Midnight and its affiliated stations present national and international news with Frank Morano and news director Noam Laden. Their summary of the world news and personal comments. Get the rest of the story.
Hey there, Noam.
Good morning, Frank. Some striking new images coming out, and we'll pass them on to you so you can put it up on your Facebook page, of one of the world's most isolated indigenous tribes emerging from the rainforest in this remote part of the Peruvian Amazon, close to where several logging companies have started to do work. This is a tribe that people know about, but they do not want outside contact. They think there's about 750 members of the Mashu Piro tribe, believed to be the world's largest indigenous community living without outside contact. Now, in recent weeks, they started to do logging in this one section of the Peruvian Amazon. And so a helicopter shot shows these people coming to the water side. Don't know if it was some sort of protest or if they were just there to see what was going on. That part's not clear. But it's a picture of this tribe that nobody has seen in years and years. And so many questions here. One is, should this logging company have the right to do this logging in this area where this tribe lives? That's one question that Peru is dealing with right now. In fact, enshrined in the Constitution in both in Peru and Brazil are the rights to isolation. And it's related to groups like this, the Mashu Piro tribe. So they're going to go back in now, and now that they've seen this tribe and they've come out of the forest, and they're going to decide whether they should take these logging rights away from this group that has gone in there and apparently paid for them. It wasn't like they're doing anything illegal. Maybe it wasn't clear to the Peruvian government that's where this tribe has been hanging out in the last couple decades. Not sure, but they're going to try to sort it all out.
I saw some of these images and read about the conflict with the loggers, and obviously I'm rooting for the isolated tribe to not be logged off their land. But I'm wondering, because I saw the images, how close have outside observers been able to get to them to observe any aspect of their culture, their language, or anything like that?
There has been contact with this tribe over the years. Sometimes reporters have made their way into the forest and found them and have had communication with them, but they don't seek it out. They don't not want to communicate with the outside world. That's just who they are. They live off the land. And actually, we don't know tons about them. That's why some of these reporters have gone in there. And sometimes those reporters have gone in, have been pushed away, told not interested, but they have spoken to others, but not at any great length. So we don't know a ton about them.
But there's about 750 of them.
That's the thought. That, they're not even positive because, again, there's no contact with the outside world.
That is wild. At 30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. All right, now, what else you have for
Not
us?
a lot surprises me. I've been doing this news thing for about 24 years now, but this one kind of surprised me yesterday. So sometimes you get into these violent protests. People get upset and they get angry in these moments. And we had one here in New York City yesterday. A community does not want a homeless shelter moving into their community. And they're fighting against the city to build this. It's a homeless shelter for about 150 men that they're building. And these communities come out day after day to try to stop the construction. The construction workers are already there doing their work. And there was a moment yesterday that even shocked me, where a new city councilwoman was leading the protest, And it got semi-violent as the police officers tried to keep these protesters away from the construction workers so they could do their work. They had put up barricades, that kind of thing. Well, in a moment of what is clearly very hostile, one of the city council member bit a police officer and bit the police officer so hard that he bled from the cut that from her teeth. This is a city councilwoman, city councilwoman in New York City biting a police officer, which of course is assault. It should be. And now we'll have to see what happens to her. We reached out to her at least 4 different times yesterday because actually she was the one who alerted us to the protest in the first place yesterday that had begun at about 6 a.m. in the morning. They wanted to be there when those construction workers arrived. And then how now hours later, she's biting a police officer. And it was interesting to hear from the NYPD yesterday. They actually held a press conference after the bite took place to say they, too, were completely shocked. They said this city councilwoman has been very pro-police over the years.
She's one of the most conservative members of the city council.
Yes, so they can't really figure out exactly when it went on. We do know from eyewitnesses in the moments before she bit this police officer, and it's not, don't think like a kid's bite where you sort of shove the kids. This is a bite where there was blood involved.
Yeah, no,
okay?
This is no big deal.
That she was trying to protect a senior citizen protester who maybe they were trying to handcuff and just got maybe carried away. But again, I don't know how you get carried away like that where you bite a police officer and draw blood.
I wonder, and I'm only partially joking here, she's, as I mentioned, one of the 8 or 9 most conservative members of the city council now. This is a body that is, for the most part, very far left. I mean, Eric Adams, they make Eric Adams look like Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
100%.
Right?
Yeah. The Progressive Caucus dominates the city council. And it's, for the most part, it's a very anti-cop city council. Do you think this is council member Susan Zhang's way of, she's a new council member, just elected, is this her way of trying to fit in with her new, more progressive colleagues by biting a cop and showing that she's one of them?
If she's smart, she'll first go over and apologize to the officer who she bit and then hold a press conference and say, sometimes we all have moments. I don't know that I'd have a moment like that, but sometimes we have moments where we do things that we will regret for the rest of our lives. And that was one of them.
It's not just a rank and file patrolman, not that it makes it any better or worse. It's one of the leading police officers in Brooklyn, Frank DiGiacomo.
Yeah, somebody who's very well known.
That is for sure. And we have no record of her biting any other officer.
No.
Or any firefighters.
No record, anything.
My goodness. Well, thank you, Noam.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Why would you bite a police officer? That is my biggest piece of advice to anyone looking to run for office in any party, federal, city, whatever. Don't bite cops. Take a bite out of crime instead, like the crime dog. All right, if you're just tuning in, you are listening to The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano, and every week around this time, we check in with a man who is at the epicenter of a great many news stories, especially one of the biggest news stories on the planet, the Republican National Convention, and what's happening in Milwaukee now. Joins us live from Milwaukee. Very pleased to talk with New York Times bestselling author and the co-anchor of Fox and Friends on Fox News, Brian Kilmeade. Brian, how are you holding up over there?
All good, ready to go. Another day, Thursday. Tonight's going to be the night the president speaks. Last night, we had the vice president. I thought it'd be great. We had some great moments when you talk about the family, the 13 people that lost their lives in Afghanistan due to the president's insistence on evacuating the way he did. His poll numbers have never bounced back. And then you had the 17-year-old Kai Trump humanize the president, just like his daughter-in-law did, just like Eric did, to a degree, just like Don did, although Don was pretty fiery. I thought it's been I can't figure out, it was 5 or 6 conventions between COVID. There was a huge gap there, but I've never seen anything quite like this. And then the backdrop, of course, is Joe Biden being pushed out. Joe Biden gets COVID. So Joe Biden's been told by the leadership he's got to go. He's told by Jeffrey Katzenberg he's got no more money. It's all drying up. Then he goes into isolation. And now they want to taunt J.D. Vance. Why don't you just pick a date to debate? And the retort is, who are we debating? Who's going to be Kamala Harris's running mate?
All right. Let me break down a couple of those things that you just talked about. But before we get to everything that you just alluded to, let's talk about this shooting that occurred on Saturday. This is the first time I'm talking to you since this assassination attempt of former President Trump on Saturday. As this investigation is unfolding and we're getting more and more details about this shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, are we hearing anything at all about a likely or possible motive as to what would lead him to do something like this?
I don't know. Also, subplot is his parents said now before they called the cops and said, you got to stop my son. So first we heard detached parents who really weren't involved. Kid's a loner. They was nicknamed a school shooter. And then we find out the parents knew something was up. Maybe they know they took their dad's gun. He took his dad's gun. We don't know the motive, but evidently there was some things on his phone that indicated that he was looking at Merrick Garland. He was also looking at going to the DNC and looking at information regarding Joe Biden. He's a registered Democrat who's given money. He's a registered Republican who's given money to Act Blue. So clearly deranged. But here's the big story, Frank. They could have stopped him. Mm-hmm. They could have stopped him. They knew where he was. He seemed to have disappeared beyond, I guess, the bend in the roof, and they lost him. They still let the president go on stage. And then yesterday, you have the director of the Secret Service finally get cornered by Republicans who said, you better brief us. The American people deserve to be briefed. We deserve to be briefed. Our listeners deserve to be briefed. Just so because you don't have all the answers, it doesn't mean we don't deserve to know the details. Not only what you did, what you didn't do, and why it's not going to happen next time. The president's going to be in Grand Rapids Saturday. Do you plan on changing anything about that? What about the current president? What about other political officials? Are your numbers down? Are your procedures bad? Is your training terrible? Why is this leader still in place?
The investigation into everything the Secret Service did wrong here apparently is going to be led by an inspector general from the Department of Homeland Security that apparently has a pretty good reputation. But I think one of the things that people are concerned about, and I don't think this is a partisan thing because I've heard calls for an investigation from Democrats and Republicans alike at this point, is that this is going to be one of these endless Washington investigations that drags on and on and produces an unsatisfying ending. What are you hearing about how this Inspector General investigation is actually going to go?
Inspector General appointed by Trump. Number two is I thought Trey Gowdy was great. Gets to get an independent commission right away. I also think that it's great that Speaker Johnson's going bipartisan. Let's do this. I want some Democrats right now. Let's get to the bottom of this. I don't see politics in the investigation. I mean, what did the Democrats run on pro-Secret Service? I'm in awe of those people that throw their lives on the line, and with it, I got that. But the advance team failed. The sniper team, were they not allowed to take out this would-be assassin? They had him scoped. They had him in their hindsight. Why were they not killing him? Why didn't they stop him? Why are you blaming local police? The police says we were handling traffic. We weren't handling anything else. So this is a huge pushback among the law enforcement community. So by being critical, you're not anti-law enforcement. Plus, I have some more text messages from New York officials, and so we met so many law saying to me how many procedures were broken, how disturbed they are about this. So it's not me, you. We don't think we can do it better. We see huge problems and a lack of transparency. We deserve better.
You alluded to what went on yesterday at the convention itself, where you had the head of the Secret Service, who's been widely criticized, actually confronted by several senators, Senator Barrasso, Senator Martha Blackburn. And first of all, I am shocked that she showed up there to begin with. But if people don't know what we're talking about, here's a little bit of Ms. Cheadle being confronted by Senator Blackburn.
This is exactly what you were doing today
this
on the call.
This was an assassination attempt. You owe the people answers. You owe President Trump answers.
Brian, why was she there knowing this was going to be the reaction that she got?
I listen. If there was anyone running this White House, she'd be fired. Let alone showing up. The president thinks it's a he. He says, called it misgendered, doesn't even know who's running his Secret Service. He hasn't had a cabinet meeting in 9 months. So there's nobody running this White House. She is showing up. What is she showing up for? To taunt? To look for herself? If she was going to show up, she'd made a big scene of it. She should have had an emergency meeting with Marsha Blackburn, with leaders on the Democratic side, if there were any there, and then going out. Instead, she plans on sneaking through. I can't answer that question. I will try to find out by the time the show starts, though.
We're talking with Brian Kilmeade, and you mentioned the president, the current president, President Biden, everything that's going on with him. So the day began yesterday with Adam Schiff saying he should step aside. Then shortly thereafter, he says, well, he'll step aside if there's a medical condition. Then after that, we learn he's tested positive for COVID. And by the way, leaked to the press, we hear that Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi all have privately urged him to drop out. And then towards the end of the evening, he's basically indicating, at least this is what's being reported, that he's open to considering a swap for another candidate. What's your view, Brian, in terms of whether this is a done deal or not? And if so, what the timing will be as to when he'll step aside?
Well, look, I'm talking to the smartest, most experienced people, and they've never seen anything like this. So anybody who hops on your show or is listening right now and says, let me just tell you what's going to happen, don't listen to the second half of that sentence, because we don't know. And, from Karl Rove to David Axelrod, you have people speculating wildly, but the momentum is so great. And now he's in isolation. He can't run from it. He can't say, look at my interview with BET. Look at my interview with Stephanopoulos, Lester Holt. Look at my appearance. I had 2,000 people. Now his inner circle is getting smaller. Polling showing internally and stuff that we get, 65% of the people want him to withdraw. Only 35% want him to stay in the race. Leading other Democratic candidates, they're talking about Mark Kelly now, does at least 3% better in all the battleground states. He was not strong in any of his interviews, and BET was all over the place, forgot Herbert Hoover's name, forgot the Secretary of Defense's name, the black Secretary of Defense. He got criticized for hiring him. Really? Who criticized him for hiring a black Secretary of Defense? There's not a person on the planet. Of course, pandering is par for the course with him. I don't see how he stays in. I also don't see, if he does want to be blind and stubborn, how you get 4,000 delegates from him, unless they start calling up those delegates and saying, flip.
Well, he would have to release those delegates, right? He'd have to make the decision to let those delegates vote for whomever they want, right?
The way I understand it, those delegates have a mind on their own, and they've already been called. 2 weeks ago, a week ago, they were working the phone saying, hey, this is the White House. I just want to make sure you're still in the Biden camp. And the word was, if they said we're not sure, they were going to be replaced. Are they still going to do that? Are there still people working the phones? Have Nancy Pelosi got to the inner staff to say, you can't win, Rock? Schumer evidently said it. Hakeem said it. So I don't know how he stays in, but they've done the worst possible thing. They've wounded him and let him live. So congratulations, Democrats. You're helping in every way possible. Donald Trump survives. I think the sentiment around him is growing. The humanization of Donald Trump is continuing. You saw his granddaughter talk about him. You saw his son talk about him as a human being. You saw the letter from Melania, who's going to be here tonight. No longer can you say that crazy former president, that fluke president who's an egomaniac and a narcissist. Really? Tell that to his grandchildren. Tell it to the people that work around him. Tell them to his kids. I mean, and then they're working and they're everywhere. And if you look at your kids reflect who you are as a person, Donald Trump grades pretty damn well.
In terms of the presidency and the campaign for the presidency, if Biden is out, I'm of the view that at this point, Biden is the weakest possible Democratic candidate, and that almost any Democrat of the dozen or so that get mentioned as a possible replacement would be a more formidable opponent in the general election. Do you share that view?
Yeah, but I don't even think he was strong when he was losing every primary. Clyburn put him in there.
No, yeah, I understand that.
But now he is. Since that debate, absolutely. But the reason is they stopped covering for him in the media. You didn't. We were calling it, and people thought we were being cruel. was saying this guy can't even walk up the steps. How is he doing it? Now people are realizing it. Yeah, he's one of the weakest ones, but good luck with that. You got one shot to run for president. Do you want to take on the strongest contender in American history, looking to recapture the White House, who is the most famous person in the world, who has done the impossible, unified the most fractured party, traditionally the most fractured party in the Republicans, who is increasing his base? You can no longer say the anti-Trumpers are taking Trump down. There are none. There's a handful, and they're at home in Wyoming and Montana.
There's one of the things that I really like about this convention, and I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying a lot of what we're seeing as well, because, I've always, whether this is fair or not, I've always viewed you more as kind of a traditional mainstream Republican in the tradition of a Mitt Romney and, a John McCain, that kind of a thing. Whereas,
policy,
yeah,
sure.
Exactly. But Trumpism is, I think, at least in part, a little bit less of a Wall Street style Republicanism and more of a Walmart style Republicanism. And that is very much on display with this convention. You saw it with Sean O'Brien, the president of the Teamsters. Yeah. You definitely heard it with J.D. Vance last night, actually calling out Wall Street. I am thinking that there's some entities within GOP circles that might be unhappy with this shift towards a more working class rather than a more Wall Street Republican Party. How do you view that whole situation, Brian? And what are you hearing? Because I know you hobnob with a lot of these folks. What are you hearing about their view of this new direction?
Yeah, I would characterize, I listen. I don't hang out. Like, I'm not, just so you know, like, I don't say, what are we doing tonight? If I see these people like the suite level, I'm not there having the free food, although it's tempting. What are you thinking? What do you know?
Understood.
How do you feel about yeah. Okay, having said that, how do you be working class and be anti-union? You can be within moments. I think the Teamsters here, I got a problem with this negotiation. They're jacking up prices. They're preventing manufacturing from coming back. But you like the men and women who make up these unions. So Republicans finally addressed it with a guy with a history of working with unions. So I think it's great. I don't think the Republicans ever said we're Wall Streeters because they're for Wall Street from New York, and most of those guys and women vote Democrat. So now when Wall Street left, especially after January 6th, Republicans say, listen, let's just finish the job. Let's just go with middle America, working America. And then they said, well, what about the unions? And I said, what about the unions? Let's talk to them. And even if they don't endorse me, their people might. If we show them respect, let them know our concerns instead of union bad. Let's be thoughtful. Blur the lines. Blur the lines. And explain to the American people that, I love these guys with the hard hats and the lunch pails. But, man, they are pricing themselves out. I can't bring furniture back here. I can't bring bottling back here. I can't make anything here. I got to go to Vietnam because union wages and union demands are way too high. And I need a longer work day. Explain that to the people. And then, you see that what Donald Trump said, if I can build that building, if you guys can come down in cost, I can get 3 more buildings. You can get your guys work with me for 4 more years. That's what Trump wants to do. He doesn't want to walk away from anybody.
What was your take on the confrontation between Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy?
I think Matt Gaetz is just poison. Kevin McCarthy is a political operative who spent his entire career for this moment and was taken down by a self-important idiot that is trying to run for governor of Florida. I don't think he's perfect, but what Kevin McCarthy is what do I need to get this done? I can deal with Marjorie Taylor Greene and I could deal with future Speaker Johnson. I got the traditional Republican, the moderate Republican. I can deal with a New York Republican. I get it. I can pick out candidates. I'll be tireless. And Gaetz blew that up. While he's got this problem with these underage accusations, which seem pretty devastating. So Gaetz tries to interrupt an interview that he's doing. He tries to say that he's going to get more applause on the House floor. I just think he's everything wrong with politics. I just same thing as I feel about AOC. She stands for nothing, does nothing for her people, wants to be famous, but she's totally ineffective.
Brian, we're going to have to end it there. I always love chatting with you, and I really appreciate you making the time joining us from Milwaukee. I know it's an hour earlier there, and I know the hours you've been keeping. So you do us a real solid by keeping your appointments with us. Thanks, Brian.
You're the best, Frank. Have a great show. Finish strong.
Thank you. We'll do the best we can. Brian Kilmeade. Check him out on Fox and Friends, on his own nationally syndicated radio show, and on Saturday nights on One Nation with Brian Kilmeade. We're going to do 15 seconds of fame in a moment, where you can give me a call and be heard for 15 seconds on any subject you like. The phone number is 1-646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.
The Other Side of Midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
When the lights go down and your dreams go wrong, in the darkness you might need a place to hide. If the days are long, when the sun goes down, you might need a place to call your own. Somewhere out there on the other side of midnight, you might hear a voice of reason in the grind. Somewhere out there on the other side of midnight, you might hear it.
There it is, the world's most gorgeous theme song, The Other Side of Midnight by Stevie G and the Hillbilly Elegists. Stevie G honors us with the work he puts in on this program on a daily basis. But now it is your turn to kick a little into the content kitty. And if you'd like to be heard for 15 seconds, you need only call 646-720-0635 as we embark on another edition of
The Other Side of Midnight. This is 15 Seconds of Fame.
Frank.
Yes, Frank, you shunned me yesterday, but it's okay. You know, I heard that what's his name? Mancow Mauler said.
I can't imagine why I would have shunned him. Lucy!
In the first 15 minutes, you talk to someone who must discuss politics only with other men. Abortion is the number one issue with most women. How can we think otherwise when we're told we have no right to have full control over our own bodies?
Thanks, Lucy. Mike.
Hey, Frank. Hey, the Democrats have known for years that Biden had pudding for brains. They just didn't care. Now they realize he can't win the election. That's when they're concerned. And who is Brian Kilmeade to say the union guys are asking for too much? What does that talking head make a year?
Billy.
From inmate to exoneree to pro bono wrongful conviction attorney, please support Jeffrey Deskovic at DeskoviCFoundation.org, DeskoviCFoundation.org, DeskoviCFoundation.org.
Rusty.
Yeah. First, they bankrupt him. Second, they want to put him in jail. And third, they want to kill a guy. Shame on you, smarty pants. And you want to vote for somebody else than him?
Roger.
This is the way my father used to address his mail to his mother during World War II. Hello, Mr. Postman. I'm as bright as a flag. Please give me your lift in your old mail bag. 22 Crystal Street is the end of my route. Worcester, Massachusetts, please let me out. Eva Barras will be waiting there for me. For Mr. Postman, handle with care.
Mike.
Morning, Frank. Those drain flies, they don't bite. They're just annoying and not too tasty unless you smother them in ketchup or a light vinaigrette dressing.
Larry.
Portraying himself as the living Caesar, Trump will begin his speech tonight by saying,
Friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ear, because I'm down one.
Larry, that is the best that I've heard from you in a while. Pete.
Sizzle moron.
I was wondering where that guy's been. All right. We will let him have the last word. Hey, if you want to stay in touch, and especially if you didn't get through on the phones today, you can email me. I'd love to hear from you. My email is frank.morano@redappleaudionetworks.com. It's plural. frank.morano@redappleaudionetworks.com. If you want to contribute in Facebook world, just find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Morano fan. Frank Morano, good day.